Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank Wargaming.
Hey, this is Heath with Team Tablewar Hawaii.
And welcome to the Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Our aim is to provide Dark Angels players with the tactical and hobby skills that they need to compete and enjoy this wonderful hobby of ours. Heath, I noticed you brought somebody with you today. Mind introducing him?
Sure. We got our sisters expert on. This is my buddy Vince, also from Tablewar Hawaii. He's joining us from the other side of the Ko'olau Mountains. Vince, what's up?
Hey guys, good to be on the show.
Thank you for coming on. So as you can see, we're going to have some featured discussion today. We're going to talk about the new Sisters of Battle Codex, but before that we're going to talk a little bit about some of the new releases that we missed last month somehow, because I think they all came out with the Intercessor box, Heavy Intercessor box, but somehow went back to the last episode, we missed them. There's also an FAQ or two that came out. In MetaWatch, we're going to take a look at the 5th place Dark Angels list at the Atlantic City Open by Charlie Andre. We're going to then, once we're done talking to Vince here and picking his brain, figuring out what's going to kill us for the next couple of months, then Heath and I are going to take a look at our monthly challenge, see if he got his Fortress of Redemption done from last month. And then we're going to take a look finally at some of our community comments from the last show before wrapping up. So, looking at new releases, we have Chapter Approved Mark II came out, so that was $40. Had points changes, some changes to the secondary missions. Some of them were dropped completely, some of them were reworked. One of my favorites I've seen so far from having played one game with the new book was the teleport homer now does not have to be in your opponent's deployment zone. It just has to be close to your opponent's deployment zone. So you can do a lot with your Ravenwing bike characters, running them out, getting just within 12 inches, wholly within 12 inches of your enemy's deployment zone, and then start dropping teleport homers. So that should be pretty cool.
Wait, so does that mean that they don't have to be infantry characters
Nope.
to do that? Really?
Yep.
Oh, I did not pick up on that. Okay.
We've got the new Combat Patrol for Space Marines, which is basically what was the old Start Collecting Vanguard box from the Shadow Spear, but they threw an Impulsor in there. That's $140. The Gravis Captain in heavy armor is $35. And then I think in the new releases here, we were also thinking about Chapter Approved. We're going to talk about some of the points changes that came out. This was some stuff I picked up from Goonhammer before I had a chance to get to look at the book myself, because I just got it ordered, but I haven't got my Chapter in my hands yet. But it looked like multi-melta attack bikes went up to 60 points, which is a big deal, considering that's been a big part of the Dark Angels meta recently. Talon Masters went up.
Well, it's not so much that the multi-melta attack bikes went up, it's that the attack bike platform went up. So when you still throw in the 10-point multi-melta, overall the cost of a multi-melta attack bike is 60 points now. So,
right, and then you saw the Talon Master went up a little bit, and then I feel like there was one more that I had pinged out. There were a lot of points drops on tanks. So if you have Land Raiders and Repulsor Executioners sitting in the background, they went down, and the new Primaris Speeder went down in points. Not the quad bike thing, the four-wheeler, the actual land speeder itself. So we might start seeing
the Storm Speeders? Wow.
Yep, so we might see those come out.
Those things were really expensive. They were really expensive. They were really expensive.
I mean, it was pretty
I couldn't see spending 190 points on those things.
Well, I think they're closer to 150 now, so you'll probably see a few more of them.
All right.
In the FAQs, from what I saw, there really weren't too many things for Space Marines specific. There was a lot of core rule changes.
There is a big thing that's going to affect Space Marines that Vince and I spent a lot of time in the game we played last week talking about. So we can touch on that when we get to the Sisters section. But big change and discussion on how the fight order, they basically redefined how the fight phase works with tagging in all the different basically sub-steps for fights first, fights normal, and fights last abilities. And big shift in how that whole thing works. So anyway, that played a big part in the game that Vince and I got to play. We'll talk about that later.
All right. And then there was a change to Death on the Wind. I was trying to find that, and I missed it somewhere.
So basically, Death on the Wind is what it says in the Codex is if a Ravenwing unit moves 12 or more inches, then if it kills a unit or makes a charge in that turn, you score 2 points. Sorry, if they move 12 or more inches or charged and you kill a unit, then you get 2 points. Well, because the way that the main rulebook is worded, when you move, you can move and then move back to the same place, and that could be defined as 12 inches. So they've kind of re-clarified the wording on it as a total displacement of 12 inches from start point to finish point, which is a pretty big nerf. One, because it gets rid of the jank where I can just say, well, I'm going to vibrate back and forth, say I move 12 inches and then shoot. But the other real functional change is because if you're going to move around a building or something like that, you have to pay movement to move this way and then this way, right, around the corner. But and that's all movement you have to pay. But the objective requires it only tests for total displacement between the start and the end point. Okay. So if you're going to try and move from one side of the building to another, it's going to cost you more movement than your total ended displacement if you do some trigonometry and get geometry and get Mr. Pythagoras out. Then
or like a physics problem.
So that's it's a big nerf to that stratagem. We had a discussion with Thomas Ogden, a fairly high level Dark Angels player recently. He said that he doesn't it hurts him, but it doesn't think that it's going to be that big of a problem because you could still just move around and kill stuff. But anyway. Yeah.
All right, speaking of that, we can kind of hop forward to Meta Watch here, so that way we don't have Vince fall asleep on us. We're going to try and get to him as fast as we can. Speaking of the big Meta Watch thing, was the 256-person or so Atlantic City Open last weekend, and as Heath mentioned, we had Thomas Ogden on the show last night to talk about his third-place finish. So if you want to know more about his list and how he did, we have a separate episode for that, so we're not going to spend a lot of time, or basically we're not going to spend any time talking about his list today, only to say that it changed a little bit, and if you want to know how it changed from when we talked about it on the last episode at Red River GT, you're going to have to listen to the bonus episode. But I did want to point out that there was another top 8 Dark Angels list. This was Charlie Andre, and he ran a very different list from what Thomas had. Again, I picked this up from Goonhammer, because I don't have the BCP app subscription, so I didn't go in and look at this for myself, but it looks like he was running something very similar to what I like to play, where he had a very heavy infantry list as opposed to a big Ravenwing list. It had a single battalion with Ezreal doing Ezreal things. It had a Relic Terminator block, which is interesting because I've not really seen people run the Relic Terminators, either physically or rules-wise. He had the Penitent of Remembrance to back them up to try and keep them from getting killed. He ran the Assault Hellblasters, shooty bubble thing with Ezreal, where you give him the rerolls and the extra damage, and you have the 3 Assault shots coming out of them, which I know, Heath, you like to run.
This is after my own heart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like this version of the list.
And I think it's
very green wing with very green wing with a little bit of spice from Ravenwing and Deathwing thrown in. What I think is like a really kind of 5th edition style combined arms approach. Vince can tell you all about Azrael and his 4-up invul bubble against shooting. But yeah, the Assault Intercessor brick, just flat 3 shots at 24 inches with a base AP4 weapon that can go up to AP5 is pretty spice. It's pretty good. So, and we all know what Blade Guard do.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, and the attack bikes. And just so everybody knows, there were a total from a quick search on the actual BCP roster, there were 16 Dark Angels players in total, and they were from the top with these 2 guys we just mentioned, Thomas and Charlie, all the way down to the 250s. So just playing Dark Angels doesn't make it an auto win. As much as everyone tried to make it out that it was all OP and super busted, we are just as bad as everybody else and just as good as everybody else, it looks like. So it all comes down to the player at that point. I'm assuming at that point.
I think from 4 months ago, where everyone said that this is the most broken thing ever, and it couldn't possibly get any worse, Drakari came out and everyone says, oh, that's what that looks like. So,
speaking of players, we need to bring in our resident Sisters of Battle player here with Heath's special segment that I can never pronounce because I can't, so I'll let Heath introduce it.
Yep. So once again, to go back to the 100 Secret Orders of the Hecatonistica, which is the Dark Angels' interesting way of managing information about how to fight specific certain threats. We brought in a Sisters player. I've known Vince for, God, what is it, 3 years since you moved out here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been about 3 years. And he's been playing Sisters ever since. I first played him with the 8th edition Index Sisters. And it's been just a smash fest ever since. We've met at the top table of several local tournaments, and it's never boring whenever the Sisters come out. So, all right. Well, first of all, what do you think about the new Sisters Codex, man?
So, honestly, there's a lot of changes, and I didn't have any. I didn't think the last Codex needed really too many changes. So it feels like a lot of changes for the sake of here's a new Codex. A lot of new units that needed data sheets, but then they just went around and they threw out some minor nerfs and threw out some minor buffs and just changed everything up. So like the lists that you had, 2 months ago, you just have to go from the bottom up and come out with a new one.
Do you think that's more to bring everything into line with the 9th edition rules philosophy, or the way the direction the game's going there, or just, hey, we want you to buy new models. Here's different rules.
I don't know if it's so much as buy new models. I don't know if they were thought that far ahead. But some of the stuff was you could tell they were clearing stuff up, so it's good. And some of the stuff was just felt kind of random. But at the end of the day, it wasn't. It didn't get knocked down a tier or anything. Everybody's just kind of scrambling to figure out what Sisters are really good at now. And it is kind of nice to go away from the oppression that was the Retributor / Repentia meta. They're still both good units. Repentia, they don't get the strength 8 anymore, but they're slightly cheaper. Retributors, they don't move and ignore movement modifiers when shooting heavy weapons, but they ignore cover now. So, yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. It's just you got to figure out a new way to play it.
So I think, from what I understand, once again, I haven't played against Sisters in some time due to the Rona. But from everything I've been hearing, it was all about just the big bricks of Repentia. Like how many really 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 angry women with giant chainswords can I hit you with? And anything they had a 27-inch threat range because they could advance a charge. Your miracle dice mechanic, you can pick some dice and just, okay, cool, I'm going to make this advance with a 6. I'm going to make this charge with at least a 9. And they just had this unbelievable threat range, and they were so killy that you just couldn't do anything about it. There's no way to survive it. From what I've seen, the game that you and I played, I got hit with a block Repentia. They killed everything.
Ooh.
So they didn't really. I mean, if they may have gotten toned down to the point where they could kill, 10 Terminators, he charged 3 aggressors with a block Repentia, and they killed everything. But I mean, hey, they don't have an invul save. They're just 3 models, 9 wounds total at T5. So I guess that's not too unpredictable. But do you think that the bottom parts of the Codex have been brought up, or do they just nerf down the stuff that was overperforming?
So there weren't too many things on the bottom of the Codex. At least none of the stuff that I really played with. I think they kind of brought up the Penitent engine, the walkers, up a little bit.
Yeah.
Repentia, they got toned down slightly, but they're also slightly cheaper. They don't have the advance and charge stratagem in the Codex anymore, but there's a character that they actually made relevant, the Penitent Superior, whose only purpose is the buff, Repentia. So she can give out the advance and charge if they're near her in the command phase. There's other tricks you can do with the Repentia now. The fast attack choice for the Sisters, they can scout forward And it used to be that if they were in a vehicle, the vehicle could also scout forward, and they brought that back. And
nice.
they made it even better because you can have anybody in the vehicle with them. They can also scout forward. So now you can put five Repentia and 5 of the scouts in a rhino, scout forward, 6 inches, and then they can disembark and charge, just like closer to your enemy. Yeah, and
I want to point out that this was the tactic that Vince used, like in the old index version of the Sisters, and in the it wasn't the index version, it was the White Dwarf, like the chapter approved version of the book.
The beta codex. The beta codex. Yeah.
The beta codex.
I started with the index. So that was with the repressors. Those beautiful, beautiful, and that was back when vehicles were like viable. But yeah, I had a full mechanized Sisters list, and then when the beta codex made that stronger, I didn't even have Repentia back then because they just were not viable at all. The codex came out, vehicles were no longer viable, repressors were legends. And then I finally had enough models to go full infantry. So that's what I've been doing a lot since then. And the Strategic Reserve Stratagem in 9th edition has given even more tools for Repentia, because you can guarantee the charge. There's a lot of ways that top players can screen their flanks from, the outflank, basically, the outflank stratagem. So you gotta watch out. People have gotten wise to those tricks, and I've met a couple players like Heath in the last game who are just very deliberately I'm gonna place this one random attack way on my flank explicitly so that you can't bring your retributors in. And the intercessors or whatever, the
Inceptors, so the big plasma droppy boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Inceptors, and then the troop choice, the Primaris troop choice that denies reinforcements for the
infiltrators. Yeah.
Yeah,
love me some infiltrators.
I fought a list. He had 2 infiltrators. It was Space Wolves, and he just pushed them on the side, and just for 2 feet of board edge, I couldn't bring any reinforcements in. So it was good counterplay on that end. Yeah, so the Rhinos, still, if you see a Sisters player with a Rhino, with a bunch of Repentia, that's still a good threat range. The only thing they lost was the D6 advance, which, Sisters probably a 4, 5, or 6 with the Miracle Dice, and then, but they can still guarantee the charge if they have the Miracle Dice, which is a lot harder, as I'll go into. That was a big nerf for Sisters in general.
Real big. I just want to focus on this Rhino thing real quick.
Oh, yeah,
so the thing that we're talking about here is, I think they're called Dominions, right? Is the name of the scout unit? Yeah. So they have a unit called Dominions, whereas basically they can make a pre-game move once the game has begun, but before the first turn. So when they know whether they're going first or second, they can move before the game begins. And if they are in a transport, the transport can also move. So you put them in so what you'll see done is they will be in a transport on the edge of the Sisters deployment zone. 5 Dominion in a Rhino or an Immolator, something with giant flamethrowers on top.
Yeah, things.
And
gross.
then with 5 other, with a squad of maybe Repentia or something else in there. And then before the game begins, when the Sisters player knows whether they're going first or second, if they're going first, they will move that transport 12 inches right straight towards you, and then on their turn, 6
inches.
It's only a 6-inch move?
Just 6 inches, even in a vehicle, yeah.
Okay, so that's
Don't make
less
them any more
abusive than it used
powerful
to
than
be.
they already are, Heath.
Yeah, that's well, it used to be the full movement of the vehicle.
It did, and then you could advance and everything. It was just a move.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It's I think Vince killed my Tantalus once by pushing, he got
Good.
hammer and anvil 6 feet across the board and got 4 melta guns within range of it on turn 1 and killed it. So yeah, so anyway, so it's additional 6 inches of move and then 3 inches jumping out of this transport, and then with the Repentia and the Repentia Superior being able to so you can still they can still project a very strong threat range across the board for a potential turn 1 charge if you're not careful about it. So all right, so you're saying about the Miracle Dice?
And then even if they don't, so even if you don't have the Dominion scout trick, a lot of sister players, I've done it before, you'll get a single rhino in your list or 2 rhinos, and you put your Repentia there, which protects them against indirect fire, because Repentia are the definition of a glass cannon in 40k, right? 6-up, invulnerable save, 5-up feel no pain, nothing else, and they're just toughness 3 models. But you put them in the rhino, and then just like tuck the rhino in like a fucking ruin or somewhere that it's not going to get popped. And then when your enemy gets close enough, then you disembark 3 inches, move 6 inches, and then guarantee that charge. So, you're potentially. It used to be you could also advance and charge, but you can't do that anymore. But that's 21-inch threat range with something that will probably delete whatever it touches.
Nice.
So that's something to definitely look out for, especially with Dark Angels. If you want to push into the center and take it with bikes or with 4-up, invulnerable save, Azrael blob of Terminators, getting a bunch of Repentia in that, those high cost, typically high durability units are the perfect target for Repentia coming in.
Yeah, and don't think that you're going to have something that the Repentia will not kill in combat. Just don't.
Right.
Just put that out of your mind right now. It's there. If the Repentia can touch it, they can kill it. Yeah.
The classic Deathwing trap of, I can't be wounded on anything but a 4 or better, and I have all these invulns and Terminator armor. I can't possibly die. It's like, yeah, well, Heath taught me that lesson with witches, and I've been taught that lesson with Khorne Berserkers, and it seems these Repentia, because there's only one Sisters player that really plays around me, and he doesn't come out very often to play, so this is all new to me. But yeah, if that's on the list of like, you'd say like Khorne Berserker levels of just dice, witches levels of dice.
So fewer. Well, I guess it's like usually it's 3 attacks in the charge,
Okay.
but it's strength 7, AP 2, and they have zealot, so they reroll hits.
Yeah,
And then you can, if you're close enough, there's a buff character, you roll 1s to wound, and another one that gives you +1 to wound, which against Deathwing, it's gonna be 4 of anyways, but yeah.
And they're multi-damage per hit, right?
2 damage, yeah.
Yeah, 2 damage per hit.
still good.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
get into another combo.
Yeah.
There's another combo that's like a very strong one that you'll see a lot in Sisters. But so Miracle Dice, right? That's a big thing that everybody's always complains about with Sisters, even though it's like their only bonus as a codex is like their chapter trait or their codex trait. So it used to be you had 4 different ways per phase to get Miracle Dice, right? Kill something, lose a character, your own character, deny a psychic power, or roll 1 for morale. So they took away the last 2. So you only get Miracle Dice if you kill something in a phase, or if you lose one of your own characters.
And that can be triggered multiple times per phase, right?
No. So if you kill 5, if you lose 5 characters in one phase, you only get 1 Miracle Dice.
Okay.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And then if you kill like 3 units in a phase, you get 1 Miracle Dice. And then there were a few other ways to get it. Like there was a Warlord trait. It started each like your turn, you would get a Miracle Dice. Right, so 1 Warlord trait and then like extra 5 Miracle Dice. They took that away. It still kind of exists, but it's just a Miracle Dice, but only the character can use it. So if you really want a Miracle Dice for your like plasma pistol or whatever. Yeah, and then the Battle Sanctum, like one of the few fortification slots that's worthwhile. So they made it more expensive, and then instead of it giving you, it just like existed, and if you had somebody on it, it give you Miracle Dice at the start of each battle round. Now it's a action that you have to take, and at the end of the turn, your turn, you get a Miracle Dice. So kind of annoying, but there's ways to do it. I think you're still going to see Battle Sanctums around. I really like the model and the design, and it's kind of expensive, but...
So you're telling me, just like in the video for 9th edition, you can send your sister into the Battle Sanctum, and you literally make them pray, and then you get cool stuff.
You literally make them pray,
Yep.
and you get cool stuff. Yeah.
All right,
So
I'm down.
I like the Battle Sanctum because it's like your portable terrain. It has the obscuring keyword, right?
It has,
that's
yeah,
cool.
It's got all the good stuff. So if you think you're going to go play at a tournament where it's like the idea with the sisters players, if you think you're going to go play at a tournament where you don't know what the terrain's going to be like, you just bring your own terrain, and no TO, no standard of play can take those keywords away from you because they are baked into the thing's data sheet.
That's pretty neat.
So, and it's only like 80 points, right, Vince?
It's 80 points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the big thing is, it's a big.
It's chunky.
Footprint.
It's got a big footprint. Yeah.
And with 9th edition rules, you can't be within 3 inches of another piece of terrain. So you have to make sure you clear it with your TO or your partner beforehand. So in Hawaii, Table Wars Hawaii, we kind of have this gentleman's agreement that if you can't place it because of whatever, then you can either bump a piece of terrain if your opponent's cool with it, or just replace a piece of terrain. But we figured, because it's going to come up with other pieces of terrain as well. Like, there's no way that the intent of GW is to make you pay for a piece of terrain and then
not be able to use
show
it.
up at 9/10 of the tables you show up to, they're not going to have a spot for it.
Well, and I think there's some sort of I think that comes down to the way the boards are supposed to be made according to the actual rules, where you drop objectives, and then I think, like, at least in Sigmar, there's some rule like you drop your faction terrain and then you worry about everything else. So that way you don't have this issue, and it's just because TOs don't want to have to spend time redoing that every single round that you have this situation. You're like, well, I have to move stuff to put my piece of terrain. I paid points, and you have to play command points to it, right? Because you have to use a detachment slot to bring that.
So you get that refunded because it's Adeptus Sororitas.
Oh, okay, that's
so
cool.
if you use your unique stuff, it gets refunded. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know if I would take it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would. If it cost me
that's
2
the question.
CP to bring, I don't know if I would. Yeah, but it's great because you can bake the idea of having terrain to hide your stuff in, like, into your plan. You know you're going to get a big piece of obscuring terrain that you can hide stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and it's I like it. I just think it's a very interesting unit, and in 9th edition, like, at least unless I'm playing it wrong, it is a unit that you have to place, like, during your when you deploy your army, you deploy that, which is super weird. I liked it better because in 8th edition and 7th edition, if you had that, you would place that stuff first and then place the rest of the terrain.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I've never ran into that before. I don't do a lot of fortifications, but
I didn't until this
Yeah.
came out. I love the GW fortification range, but right now all my fortifications are just cool terrain that I used to set up. Miracle Dice, harder to get. I mean, you can still get it. Like, eventually you'll have too many. Like, maybe turn 4, turn 5. There's just not enough. You're still going to use one per phase. So if you want to use it for 2, different units, you just got to choose one to use it for them, unless you have the special banner for it. Let's see. Imagifiers got definitely nerfed.
What are Imagifiers?
They could give aura of -1 AP. Imagifier, sorry, they're the banners. It's a character, and she's just got, like, a huge statue of a saint, and she would give an aura, and there's, like, 3 different auras that you give out: +1 strength, ignore AP -1, or reroll deny the witch. And now she just has +1 strength, and then she can ignore. No, sorry, it's -1 to wounds against anybody within 3 inches of her, but only against strength 3, so fairly useless against most armies, because you're never worried about strength 3 really. Right, but she doesn't give out the ignore -1 AP anymore, so you'll see a lot fewer of her, I think, because she's expensive, and +1 strength is, like, cute, but not, doesn't really
They're
define your army.
future-proofing you for guard is what they're doing.
I mean, I'll take it. I got a really cool Midget model, so I'd love to have a reason to run her again. Let's see. Seraphim got a big slap in the face. So Bloody Rose is very popular.
what's their
faction
chapter tactic do? Or their order?
In the Codex, because they're the ones. Yeah, they're the ones that have +1 attack on the charge, and then +1 AP to melee weapons, and it used to be to pistols as well. they took that away. So it's just +1 attack on the charge and +1 AP on melee weapons, which is still really good, right? But it used to pair very well with the jump pack, dual pistol girls, the Seraphim. So they got hit with that as like a side nerf. And they also used to have a stratagem called Deadly Descent. When they came in on the deep strike, they got an extra 6 inches to their pistol range in the movement phase, and they could shoot in the movement phase. So they still have that, except they took away the extra 6 inches of range. So very popular build was 4 Inferno pistols with these angels. But without the stratagem, you can't deep strike and shoot them, so you have to either wait a turn or have them start on the board, and they're just come up against utility against like Dominions or regular Battle Sister squads who have a 6-inch movement but a 12-inch range on their weapon, as opposed to a 12-inch movement and 6-inch range on the weapon. So we'll see if Seraphim...
I've had a number of characters sniped by descending Inferno pistols with a 12-inch range. So I'm not that upset about that, but it's...
But yeah, I mean, it's about as deadly as, I don't know, the Stormtroopers,
yeah.
You know. You get Stormtroopers with 4 melted guns, deep striking. So I would say it's about the same. And then Seraphim, the pistol and sword jump pack girls, they lost their rerolls to wound, so that was what made them like super deadly. Although they did get an extra attack, so it's only like a slight nerf, I think. I would much rather have the rerolls to wound, especially against certain, you know, Space Marines who ignore, you know, 1, 2, and 3 to wound. So that actually, you guys can be very grateful for that when you're facing sisters. Yeah, he says a lot of the nerfs. There's a couple of other things here and there, but nothing that kind of transparent to you if you're not playing sisters. For some of the new stuff, so the one biggest thing, and that's gonna like warp the entire sisters meta forever until she gets nerfed. It's the new Morgan Val.
Yep.
The definitely not.
Yeah. Everybody's gangster till the High Lord of Terror shows up.
Right. Yeah. So she's tougher. Basically, she's tougher than Gilliman. She's got the Chapter Master reroll. So everybody rerolls once to hit and to wound around her, and she can choose a unit to reroll everything. So she just, you know, the perfect buff machine, and she's really hard to kill. There's like, she halves damage coming in, and she's got a 4 invulnerable save, and she has to be your warlord, so she always has reroll all hits and wounds and melee. She's got a lot of shooting, and she's got crazy melee, and she's got all this for 265 points, and she's so good that any single list of DA that you have, there's no way it can't be like improved by replacing 265 points of whatever and putting her there.
So you think we're going to see it? We're going to see a lot.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah. You won't see it from me just because, you know, maybe I'm just being hipster, but I don't like where she's at as far as you know, meta warping. I think she's going to get nerfed soon, and I'm not going to put a lot of effort into like. I feel like she's an easy button, just like, oh, boop, all right, more competitive. But she's definitely like there, and she's going to be there in a lot of, and you can see that in a lot of the lists that have been going to tournaments. Every single list has her as one of the HQ choices. Celestine, everybody's favorite living saint.
Yeah,
she's improved.
She is improved.
She's more expensive. Yeah, she's more expensive. She's not any deadlier in close combat, right? She'll maybe kill 1 or 2, Space Marine intercessors on the charge or something. But she now has her bodyguards as part of her unit, so you have to take them all. So it's 200 points for all 3 of them. So she will give up 9 points for assassinate. So something to definitely consider. Because you take her, your opponent's just going to take that. But she still has a 2-up, coming back to life once a game. And they really cleaned up her game design. So her Miraculous Tears ability used to be like super janky and like weird and hard to put in, because she used to be able to just resurrect one of her Gemini, but they were a separate unit, and like when you did it was kind of weird. Now they're all the same unit, and you basically take the action during your shooting phase, and at the end of the shooting phase, you can bring back one of her dead bodyguards, or heal Celestine up to full wounds. So very, very clean.
That's
you know,
nice.
very definitely have to like choose. Like, am I going to shoot my flamer, or am I going to bring back a twin or whatever? And you have to like run away from close combat so that you can like do the action, etc. So I think that's going to be you'll see her a lot more. She can still give out +1 invulnerable save, but it has to be a warlord trait, so just be a warlord. But she'll pair very well with the Seraphim or Seraphim. 5 invulnerable base, so they get up to 4.
That's really big.
Next to her, and they can keep up with her.
That is real big. So Vince and I played a game on Monday or last Monday, and I had a big brick of Assault Intercessors and Deathwing Terminators sitting around Azrael. I was like, all right, come on, let's do this. And I had a Judiciar in there to throw out the fight last, and they got hit with a big brick of Zephyrim, another big brick of Zephyrim, and a couple of characters, and Celestine. And so Azrael's 4-up invul bubble is only against range, it's not against melee, which I was aware of. The Zephyrim, those Bloody Rose Zephyrim, wiped a 10-man unit of Assault Intercessors without even breathing hard. Just straight through them.
Yep.
It's like, here's 40 hits that are all Strength 5, AP -4. Right? Just, I did Transhuman, didn't matter, they're all dead. And then, the other unit of Zephyrim bounced off a unit of Deathwing Terminators with Storm Shields. So I rolled like just an absolutely annoying person. I think I failed 2 out of 10 invul saves, so I'm not ashamed. But Celestine, but like I was like, okay, fine, I'll fight back again there. Celestine giving this big unit of sisters 4-up invul saves. Everything's got a 4-up invul save in close combat. Everything when Celestine's around, right? And it's like, you kill Celestine, you have to kill her 2 Gemini little bodyguard units before you can even get to her. And then if you kill her, she's just going to get back up again. So next thing you know, you've got a living saint sitting right in the middle of your where you want to be. That's throwing this 4-up invul bubble, effectively a 4-up invul bubble, out at everybody. Is that 4-up invul bubble capped? Is that invul +1 invul capped to a 4-up?
Yeah, it's capped at 4-up. So there's only two ways you can get an extra invul.
Celestine.
So again, you have to give a warlord trait for it, and usually it'll be a 5-up invul that she gives to everybody, because sisters obviously they have a 6-up from their special rule, and it's the same special rule that gives them their Deny the Witch, which I'll get into because they got a buff on that. But the angelic units, so the Seraphim and the Seraphim, the jump pack units, their special rule is they have a 5-up instead of a 6-up, and then she buffs them to a 4-up. So 4-up is the max you can go on that rule, so it pairs very well with Celestine. So I'll get into a couple other tricks you can pull. So there's 6 bonuses you can buy for your Canoness or your Palatine.
Yes, pay very close attention to this. This is a problem.
So basically, so the equivalent of a captain or a lieutenant, right? Reroll 1s to hit for the Canoness, reroll 1s to wound for the Palatine. The Canoness is fairly deadly in close combat. She's, they're just kind of like really tough little characters. You can give them relics and like blades that give multiple damage. But one of the upgrades you can buy is 40 points? Yeah, 40 points, so pretty expensive. So it's got two effects. The first one, you can do every fight phase. Just choose a unit within 3 inches. They fight last, which we'll get into that discussion later. But then once per game, you can spend a miracle die to give an aura to that character, and everybody within certain inches, they can't take invulnerable saves against melee attacks from her.
That was a huge swing. So he told me about before the game.
That was a huge thing.
His Candace gets in there, and he's like, all right, I'm going to spend this miracle. And I was like, oh, that's her. Okay, so he throws out a 3-inch aura of no one can take invul saves, and I had a unit of Terminators, and I had Samael, and I had Azrael all within 3 inches of her. So just cut the heart out of my army in one go, just taking away everyone's invul saves. With the relic blade she has, that's like 3 flat damage, and she rerolled hits and wounds in combat. Yeah. So that watch out for that Canoness.
Yeah.
If she says this thing can ignore invulnerable saves,
No, that's
you have to kill it at range. And I made a mistake in that game. I had the opportunity to shoot it with aggressors, and I did not, and that was a that was a problem. But do not just don't go in there assuming that because it's a toughness 3 character, you're going to be able to kill it in close combat. That is not the case. They also have a stratagem where they can get one of their characters back up once per game. Right? So even if you kill her, she's just going to get back up and then do her Thug Fizzle again.
Oh, that's scary.
Yep.
Or anyway, instead of... Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really... Yeah. It's once per game now. And so any character with once per game, it's 2 CP, and then you have to also spend miracle dice to... So every miracle dice you spend gives you an extra wounds. So 1, 2, or 3 wounds.
Nice.
But yeah, at the end of the phase, so especially at the assault phase, like if I keep her alive long enough in the assault phase, I jump in, she does her thing, she gets killed by the counterattack, and then I bring her back the next phase, and then yeah. So definitely lost a chance. To
Yeah.
I was actually surprised you kept her alive, but I wasn't going to stop you. I mean, there were other threats. There were other threats that you were like dealing with at the time too. So yeah. So that's the most significant one of those upgrades. There's another cute one, and the persistent effect is the Canoness can basically, she's a sniper, so ignores lookouts her. And there's a pistol relic that I really like. So it's 4 shots, 18-inch range, strength 5, AP 1, damage 2. Mm-hmm. So I usually take that every game. It's just really nice with a 2-up to hit. Just like pop out a couple extra primaries. I haven't tried it out yet, but
I guess
try.
That actually doesn't sound that like wow. So you tell me there's actually a reasonable pistol relic.
Yeah, it is like the one.
Wow.
the only one I've ever seen. There's that. Oh, there is a pistol relic for a convent that I don't usually play. That's an infernal pistol, like a melta pistol. But it's a 12-inch range, strength 9, and it always counts as being in melta range.
Oh,
that's not bad. That's definitely not bad.
Good.
That's definitely not bad.
Yeah, that could be a good a pairing with it.
But four shots at AP -1, 2 flat damage, 18-inch range. That's not bad.
Yeah, and it got like super nerfed too, because it used to be AP 2, but I would always give it with my Bloody Rose, who would give
so
it
it's AP 3. Yeah.
So yeah, that was the bane of Primaris, definitely. Before, now it's just kind of cute. So I still take it because it's really fun, and I have a really nice bolt pistol modeled character. So it just looks like a machine bolt pistol. I love it. Okay, let's see.
What do you think about the secondaries?
Yeah. Secondaries, I actually love. I love them. Well, 2 of them I really, really like because I'm a huge fan of secondaries that you have to that aren't like play the game like you normally would, except get random points for like killing the stuff that you were going to kill anyways. So there's one you choose. Your opponent actually chooses an objective in no man's land, or he'd choose one your opponent's own. He's never going to, and that is the Sacred Shrine. And then at the end of your turn, if you hold it, you get 4 points.
Oh, nice.
Like I think that's like the perfect example of 40k secondary. Like great game design. There's back and forth. It like shapes the game. Super thematic. Right.
It gives your opponent some agency. But like if you design your list to be able to just go and hold an objective, like push out and hold, it's really good. And like so Vince took this objective in the game that we played, and I was like, all right, this one right here, I want you to take this one, and I kind of deployed my army to provide just this massive like overlapping fields of fire across that. I never got to it. I just couldn't. So the partly because of the 20-man blob of sisters that had transhuman physiology, which we could also talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, it's. I think the AdMech also have a objective like that. But no, it's good. It's like you should be able to pick one in no man's land, and they have to push out and take that objective. Now, if you're set up for it, no, I was never. So I had Ezekiel with Engulfing Fear. I was like, cool. I could just throw a unit out there, turn off OBSEC on the big unit. This shouldn't be that big of a deal. It never worked out that way because Sisters are cheap, and he had 2 to 3 units sitting on that objective that with OBSEC at all times. So Sisters have the ability to MSU. That's really that the Marines just don't have. So.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good call.
And yeah, there's 20. Yeah, so that's one. The other one I really like is it's not Sacred Shrine. It's like Consecration. It's like consecrate the sites or whatever. So that one, it's kind of like Raise the Banners. You go and you consecrate a site. So with any unit or character or priest, even. And at the start of your next command phase, you get 1 point if the objective's in your deployment zone, or 4 points for any objectives not in your deployment zone. So that one I'll like this. That one I take if I'm fighting one of the maps where there's like objective that if I chose a Sacred Shrine would be like right in front of the enemy, so I'd never get to it. Right, so I took the Sacred Shrine in the game with Heath because it was 4 objectives and 2 of them were just like in the middle, right, like equidistance between both of us. So there's no like bad site for it. Otherwise, I'd probably choose the Consecration. There's one that you have to kill a unit with a Flamer, a different unit with a Bolter weapon, and a different unit with a Melta weapon, and then you get a point for each if you do that, which is kind of cute, but. Definitely not.
Sounds like too many terms and restrictions. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one, you have to use Miracle Dice. And because you don't get a lot of Miracle Dice, unless you build your list for it, like there's a couple of orders that get more Miracle Dice generation, you're not going to get it. So those two, though, because they're like objective-based and mess around, and there's great modeling opportunities for like determining, hey, this is consecrated. Here's my, image of fire banner on it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So the 20-woman sister squad. So they used to be like 5 to 15. Now they're 5 to 20. And they restricted the battle sister squad a little bit. So it used to be you could have 2 special weapons in a squad. Now it's 1 for every 5 basically. That's how they did it. So at 20, you can have 4 special weapons with your combat weapon for your sergeant. But they have the transhuman stat, basically. If you have a battle sister squad on an objective, you can spend 2 CP, and you can't wound them on a 3, 2, or 1. Additionally, they count as being in rapid fire range, basically, for all the rapid fire weapons.
So they get bolter discipline, even if they move, and they get transhuman from the same stratagem. Oh. So the way this played out, he has an objective, and there's a bunch of craters, and he just rolled up, towed him into the objective. Most of them are in cover, 2 CP, and there's 20 sisters that are hitting me 24 inches away with full rapid fire. And then I think all 4 of those special weapons he had were storm bolters. Right?
The new storm bolters.
The new storm bolters, which do 2 damage per, and can generate mortal wounds.
So there's also a stratagem, Sacred Bolts, I think. So the Artificer Storm Bolters, right? The new Storm Bolters, because they needed to have an excuse to make our Storm Bolters cost 5 points instead of 3 points. So they made them damage too. But 6 to wounds with those. If you pop the stratagem, if the Artificer Storm Bolters generate 2 mortal wounds instead of damage 2. Capped at 6. Capped at 6.
Oh,
so I was having ridiculously bad luck.
I
think I popped it 3 times in our game, and each time I did 2 mortal wounds for it. But especially with the freaking Morgan Bow with her full rerolls to wound and everything, you can definitely fish around and get cap out.
Easy get 6 mortal wounds out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the two sources of that would be the 20 sister squads or the Dominion squad, so you can take 4 special weapons at their small state. So you could get 4 artificer bolters on one of them. They just pop out of a building and shoot it out, or have multiple units that can do that. Yeah, so that's another big one that he had a little bit of trouble with.
Yeah, I would say I think that 20-man unit of sisters. So I had a Talon Master with the Arbiter's Gaze and a unit of aggressors on that side of the board, and I didn't kill my way through the 20 minutes. There was like 6 of them left at the end of the game. It's kind of a trap shooting into that. So it was like the first turn of shooting, I was like, well, this Talon Master is better spent shooting at the small 5-man or 6-man units that have a bunch of special weapons, because I'm just wasting my shots going into this big 20 unit in cover, because the Talon Master's no escape doesn't apply to himself anymore. So yeah, if you've got 3 Talon Masters, maybe you could do it, but still, I'm not sure.
It's a lot of Talon Masters.
It's a lot of I mean, yeah, and they're worth it. They absolutely are. But he's getting a lot of value out of a 2 CP stratagem to basically negate a large portion of your firepower. Or if you put it other places, then I think if you see that 20-man unit of sisters, don't feel the need to try and prove that you can kill your way through it. Right? Like, there is most likely other more valid targets that are smaller units that you can shoot your way through. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Let's see. So there's a new sword, or I guess mace and shield unit for the sisters. I haven't been able to try it out too much. I'm just building the unit right now. But it's bodyguard. It's a sisters unit with a storm shield. So 2 up armor save, 4 up invulnerable save, and they've got a 2 damage mace or a power spear, a power halberd. And they got the same bodyguard rules as Celestians, and yeah, nothing too special about them. They just look really cool, and I think they got a really good counterattack role potential, especially if you're in a convent if you're not using Bloody Rose for like Repentia and Seraphim. But without buffs, they're killy enough to threaten Terminators and stuff. So, way to get yourself unstuck if you're trying to go like full, like shooting with Valor's Heart or with some of the Miracle Dice, like specific chapters.
That's always good.
I have heard there's some shenanigans available with them.
Oh, they have a 6-up heroic intervention, or a 6-inch heroic intervention.
All right, yeah. So Celestians. So the Celestian squad, which is the sisters' shield and mace, have a 6-inch heroic intervention. How expensive are they?
I think they're like 17 points each.
That's not bad. Yeah.
I mean, they are just 1 wound, so it's with kind of cheap firepower. You could probably kill them pretty efficiently. But there's a lot of potential with them, so I'm gonna figure it out. It's the one melee unit we have that's not really a glass cannon, I think. So we'll see how that all works out.
Oh, if they're only 1 wound, yeah. I think that a lot of people these days are teching and bringing a lot of 2 damage stuff to try and kill Death Guard and Space Marine and stuff. So in reality, like, if everyone's bringing 2 damage weapons, they're shooting 2 damage weapons at 1 wound models. You're effectively, your stuff is as durable as a 2 wound model because they are taking 2 damage shooting to kill, right? So yeah, it's not like they're killing 2 models with every overcharged plasma hit. So
that's true. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but a Devastator Doctrine Assault Cannon sound like a great profile to kill those things. So
yeah,
do they have any interesting stratagems associated with them?
No.
Okay.
Not that I can think of. Yeah, there's a couple ones they can kind of do, but I might be missing one. I haven't played with them. I've only played in 1 game where I had proxies with them, and they just kind of sat there on an objective and got shot at by orcs until they all died. But they did hold the objective for two turns. So we'll see. I'll keep iterating with them. Yeah, and they still have the bodyguard. So the new bodyguard rule for them and the Celestians that are just like normal Battle Sisters, except they get like melty guns and bolt guns and stuff.
That's good.
They get +1 to hit instead of free roll all hits when they're next to a canoness, and then they protect characters. So you can't shoot a character who's within 3 inches of a Celestian, even if they're the closest.
So yeah, they have basically a super Lookout Sir. So even if you have a sniper weapon that ignores Lookout Sir, yeah, so the Deathwing, you have a lot of that stuff as well. And that's probably going to pair really well with Morgan Vol. Just little ways that you can't shoot Morgan Vol.
So she is not protected by that.
Really?
I don't
she's more than 10 wounds?
Check, she's a lot of wounds, yeah. Let me just double check.
That's scary.
But I think because she's a vehicle or whatever.
Morgan Vol.
So I mean, there's no way
she has 8 wounds.
Untargetable.
She's 8 wounds. And she has the vehicle keyword, but that doesn't matter because she has less than 8 wounds.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, she is. She's basically a Talon Master.
That's scary.
Oh, jeez, yeah. No, there's no nothing to... Yeah, and she's got pretty decent shooting, too. And then she'll like jump into melee. Yeah, melee is where she's like crazy, so... Yeah. Okay, what next?
What else you got, Bailey?
All right. Is that... Have we... Well, did we talk about the Nundums there?
Oh.
Yeah. I saw that. That's the note that I saw that I felt like we haven't talked about yet. The new sister war suits.
So I think that's one of the designs that you really like it or you hate it. I'm personally I'm not a fan of the Baby Walker aesthetic in general. Like I thought it was really dumb when the Grey Knights had it, and then like they keep trying to bring it back. I can't remember what was called, whatever the space.
The Grey Knight, yeah, the Dread Knight, the Master in Dread Knight armor, yeah.
So they did that for Sisters. So I'm not a fan of the design, and then I'm not really a fan of the design space either because, I mean, the Sisters really need infantry unit that's more like durable and powerful than a Terminator. I don't think so. That's never really been their whole thing, right? They're just like normal humans who, with like intense training and faith, are, like viable, right? And then putting aside all that, I don't think are competitive right now. So they have the -1 damage coming.
Really? Why is that?
They have 4 wounds and they're 80 points and their toughness like 4 or 5 or whatever. But in this meta, right, like if you showed up and you had a unit of Nundums against my list, I would just laugh at you and kill them.
Yeah, Meltas and those 2 damage Stormbolters and the mortal wounds and yeah.
Well, yeah. So it's and I mean it's -1, incoming damage, but like with Meltas and Miracle Dice, yeah, it's too easy to like pop those. And I think they have like a 5-up. They can get up to like a 5 invulnerable save. But then you factor in Dark Eldar coming in with their Dark Lances.
D3+3.
Last Cannon.
Yeah, those are nasty.
Like mass last cannons, anything like that. They're just like such a big target, and they don't have the durability to justify.
80 points is pretty expensive. So, yeah. Well, so if with 4 wounds and T5, 4 wounds T5, that's about the same as those Custodes Terminators, like the Aquilin Terminators. But I guess if they don't have some of the Custodes, well, those things were a 2-up, 4-up. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, listen, I think this meta right now is just all tuned around.
Right.
Lots of high damage. Everyone's teched up to kill Death Guard and Deathwing Terminators. So showing up with something that's not quite as durable as that, like everyone's like, okay, cool, -1 damage. I can handle that. No big deal. So lots of Melta and overcharged plasma. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I feel you. I'm curious to see what some people think up with it. But yeah. Okay, I do want to go back and touch on the way they changed the fight phase into restructured it into basically 3 sub-steps about fight order, because that was really relevant in the game that you and I played, and I think it's really relevant for just 9th edition in general, because every codex so far that we've seen has this kind of what we call fight last abilities, and the wording on them is different in a lot of different ways. Yeah. So basically what happened was, in the FAQ, they went out and released a whole bunch of words, and then they released a designer commentary, amplifying that. So now the fight phase effectively operates in 3 stages. So you have fight first units, fight normal units, and fight last units. So the thing here is they defined that charging units are fight first. And any ability that affects a fight that applies a fight first or a fight last buff or debuff basically cancel each other out. So if I hit you with a fight last and it specifically defines the the Judiciar's Temper Mortis, like that this unit is not eligible to be chosen to fight until all other units have fought, that is a fight last ability. So when you use that ability on a unit that charged, it just cancels and it goes to a fight normal. So it used to be that was, we would say that makes it fight at last at the end of the fight phase. Now it just puts them in the fight normal order instead of the fight last order. So when you've got multiple units, that can feel careful about the order of activations and what you're going to charge and where.
And I think they also said that you can't stack, and where you have multiple units like that, you can't stack the fights last to, like, you can't, if they charge, you can't put 2 fights last on it, and to make it fight last, you just simply apply 1 and it goes to normal, and that's it. Yeah,
it just goes to normal. So how did that so we spent probably 20 minutes figuring that out in our game, Vince. How did that affect how did that affect the way you played the game?
So I mean, I knew the way it was supposed to go, and you're the one who
I was not sure.
Wrong. So.
I was not sure. That's completely correct.
No, it's literally, it was funny because it was like I was waiting for you to show up, so I got there a little early, and I was just like browsing stuff and just randomly happened upon like the Goonhammer article. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, huh? And this is the first time I've had a fights last ability as Sisters. It's the same upgrade, right? The persistent effect. You can choose a unit to fight last. I'm like, oh, how does that actually work? So I'm glad I looked that up because so that was just a way to shut down. So the big thing for me, right, especially if I'm charging, right, and I feel like I'm going to be doing that a lot if I'm Bloody Rose or trying to set that up, is if you're fight last and you went from normal and then you drop down to fight last, you can't be chosen to interrupt somebody who's fighting first.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing. So that gives me 2 units like Bam Bam before he can like choose this guy, right? So for example, I try to kill his Terminators with my 5-unit Seraphim, and I told the 10-man Intercessor Squad to fight last, which let my Seraphim, who charged, kill them. Didn't quite work out because the Terminators stayed alive, but yeah, it definitely will come into play. And then the counterplay, right, like fight last, fight first, all that stuff. Now it's super clean, is what I really like about it. So you can actually plan and strategize off of it, because you can't stack it, and there's no weird things. If your enemy has a fights first or fights last, it's basically a universal special rule that you'll give out, and you can instantly understand.
Yeah,
it's going to be the same across all.
Basically, like previously in 9th edition, there were like 3 kind of variant wordings of that ability, which did slightly different things, and we've kind of like as a community informally rank them in terms so the one that is going around the most now is uses the not eligible wording, was considered the most powerful because not eligible meant that it couldn't be selected for the interrupt stratagem. And I just saw that they released another one which basically shows that there are some wordings which use fight last or fight first but don't have the not eligible wording. And those, if it says fight last but it doesn't use the not eligible wording, then you could use the interrupt stratagem or counteroffensive to promote them in the fight order. But the non-eligible ones, now they don't go all the way to fight last. They just would negate a fight normal if their unit had charged, but you can't choose them for the out-of-order fighting. So I think understanding that is going to be something that everyone's really going to need to be on top of moving forward, because it's a big change to the way the fight phase works.
Oh, yeah.
Me included, because I got it wrong. and Vince and I talked about it for about 10 minutes until we finally looked at it, and I says, oh, they specifically call out the ability I'm trying to use here as the thing that's not doing the thing I said it's doing. Okay, I guess I'm wrong. There we go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's why you do the practice games. I mean, we were both like learning so much. So especially after Rona, like Hawaii hasn't had a gaming scene for like
15 months almost. Yeah,
a couple.
Yeah,
like we haven't had it. Like maybe next month or in 2 months we'll have the first like actual tournament. But besides that, people have just been like gaming at home.
Lots of tabletop simulator, and I think I've played 3, maybe 4 IRL games of 40K in the last 15 months, but we're getting there. So
you guys just making me feel bad because we had our lockdown ended last June in 2020, so we've been playing and doing stuff. And been safe. Like Heath and I've talked about this past. Like we've like had the hand sanitizer, had the mask. Where like if you come in feeling sick, like we'll ask you to leave. Like if you feel sick, don't come. Don't ruin this for everybody else. And we've been able to do some smaller things, and now people are getting to do big things. Now people have been vaccinated, like the Atlantic City Open. So yeah, I feel bad for you guys. You're just been stuck on a little island and can't get out.
No. Well, I'm not that worried about it. I mean, like I said, it's definitely like Hawaii is different because we don't have a huge amount of medical resources, and so if it gets out of hand here, it gets out of hand. We can't just like drive someone to the next city over. Like you got to get on a plane for 6 hours to get off this island. So no shade at the government or the or the governor for making the decisions they did. We're going to be fine. It's just plastic war dollies. Yeah. So, but yeah.
And we can try our tears at the beach.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. We'll be off in a couple weeks, I think. So,
all right, so
as soon as everybody keeps getting their vaccines.
What we were looking for? We picked Vince's brain.
I think we did. Vince, you got anything else that's really that like? So what? Okay, let me rephrase the question this way. What are you worried about when you show up as a Sisters player and see Dark Angels on the other side of the table?
So that the freaking permanent transhuman is a huge deal for me because I'm used to wounding on 2s and 3s with all my multi guns, and my whole list is built around that, right? So especially the first time I think you show up with your new codex, I was with my old codex and that was still a big thing. So a lot of AP2 shooting is going to be good against all varieties of Sisters, even the sacred the Valor's Heart, because that's the most efficient. Because if you're forcing me to take 4-ups, then I'm going to lose a lot of girls. Because especially anything that you have like the assault cannons in Devastator Doctrine, like you said before, that's the most hyper efficient shooting you could probably have against Sisters, because you're going to wound on 2s because everybody's toughness 3. Yeah. Besides that, like charging, like melee threats, right? Like if I'm not charging you, I have to feed you like small sister squads to as speed bumps, because otherwise you are going to just kill anything. Like if you'd gotten a charge off into my 20-man sister squad, right? Like even if I had gotten the +1 invulnerable save, it still would have been 5-ups, but you would have killed like 10, 11, 12 easy on the charge. Anytime you swung at my angels, even with the 4-up invulnerable save, you just wipe out most of the squad with any of your units. So those are the big ones I'm worried about. And then it's like anything you can use to kill my characters, right? Like Samael, I was expecting him to like jump behind my lines somehow and like pull some crazy stuff and like dump a couple plasma cannons into my Image of Fire or my my Hospitaller or a Canoness or something.
Okay, so I think what I'm getting at is the Strength 6 like assault cannon type of profile is the most effective, and you're really strongly rely on your characters to buff all the rest of the stuff up. which does kind of track with what I was seeing from the other side of it. So if sisters start to become prevalent in your meta, 2 Talon Masters, which is definitely something I would recommend anyway, is a strong profile to have. I also want to say, in this game I had a 4-man Inceptor unit with Plasma. And Inceptors with Plasma, the fact that each one of them has 2 D3 blast weapons, he showed up with a lot of 6+ model units. And I dropped in with Inceptors and completely wiped 2 units of sisters. Yeah. Just, all right, 2 shoot at this squad, 2 shoot at that squad. I don't have any buffs because I'm outside the range of everything, but it doesn't matter because I'm hitting on 3s and I'm wounding on 2s. Actually, I think I paid the CP to make them remain stationary when they dropped in, so they hit on 2s, wounded on 2s. That has changed.
You can't do that anymore, just so you know, Heath.
Really?
That was in the FAQ. That was specifically in the FAQ.
Oh. Hold on.
Anymore.
What do you mean you can't do that?
If you deep strike, there's no way for you to not say that you didn't move. That was something in the FAQ. They said, like, deep striking, according to the new FAQ that just came out, that deep striking or coming from reinforcements, you always count as having moved, and there's no way to negate it. Period. That is a huge. Doing that thing that I taught you, we're not allowed to do that anymore.
We're not allowed to do that anymore.
Sad.
Vince, my apologies. I'm not allowed to do that. Invalidate the whole game. I'm cool with that. Yeah. We did so much stuff wrong that game. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and revisit that. I did not catch that in the FAQ. So. Because I thought it said if you...
Space Marine specific one.
Space Marine specific one. Okay.
I think that's in there. It's either in there or it's in the core somewhere. But that was something I came across and I went, oh, that makes me sad. I can't do this anymore.
All right. Well, I'm going to go back and revisit that. So my apologies. Good. I'm glad we brought that up because I had no idea. So anyway, I still think the point is valid that Inceptors with blast weapons are going to be a good counterplay into sisters because they will tend to bring larger units. A lot of times people have been specifically staying at 5 and under model units if they can to get away from the blast weapons, but sisters, there's no reason not to. So Inceptors are going to be a great way to deal with it. Just don't shoot the Inceptors into that 20-man unit of transhuman sisters because you're just going to waste it. So... yeah, you'll kill like 6 of them, and then you will be sad.
That sounds like personal experience there, Heath.
Well, no. I didn't want to do it, and I didn't do it, because I knew I would be sad, and I don't want to do things that make me sad. I try to get value out of it. I was like, if I can wound on 2s by shooting these other 2 units that are, holding off this side of the board, I have a chance of actually flipping this game and flipping one of these objectives. So
yeah, he needed the flank. He got the flank, and that's what won the game. Also, because I didn't use that 1 miracle dice.
You didn't use 1 miracle die to keep the 1 girl alive, and I made a completely obnoxious 12-inch charge out of deep strike.
That's also
with the Inceptors into that 1 unit that was left. So, but hey, sometimes that's what makes it memorable. So,
all right. Well, then we can use Vince here as a judge for our monthly challenge. He can judge. Our train. So one of the things, Vince, that we've been doing... I just came back. I saw him drop, and I'm back.
Okay.
Back again. Right. So one of the things we do on the podcast is every month, Heath and I have a challenge, and if we complete the challenge, then we add $10 into like a little war chest. That's our Christmas gift to the other one. Something we started right at the beginning. Kind of surprised Heath with it because it just popped in my head. And we both had our success and failures so far. And this month we were supposed to do terrain because Heath wanted to work on his Fortress of Redemption. And so I'm curious as to whether or not Heath got that Fortress of Redemption done.
So, that thing you do where you get almost done with a thing, and then you look at it and go, you know what? Something completely different needs to happen here. That was me like 2 days ago. So I started over, and I did not finish. Yeah, so I did not know. And also, that thing is way more intricate than I thought it was. I looked at it, I was like, oh, yeah, it's fine. This is airbrush here, airbrush there. And I picked up, I was like, oh, there's a lot of skulls on this thing. Oh, man. But mostly there's these big angel dudes on the side, and they have wings. And previously, what I was doing was I was just painting the angel, but not the wings. And the more I looked at it a couple nights ago, the more I realized I needed to do something with the wings. And so I resolved that I'm going to try this like Clorox sheet marble effect with the airbrush.
Oh, I've heard about this.
So I'm taking the hit. I did not complete because I'm going to try and do something different and try a new technique. I did not have the time in the last 2 days to do it. So I yield.
So what I was rocking, this is the Cyborg Miniatures Resin Terrain. There are a lot of hidden skulls. I actually had to go back while I was painting some of these because there's skulls hidden in dirt, skulls hidden up armpits, skulls hidden under arms. This is their rendition of a dreadnought that I painted green, so that way I'd have 3 things that were mostly all green and then 3 things that are mostly white, like this like little wall here. And then there's one that's kind of neat where it has a little bit of both, where it has a skull or a sort of green statue that I did up and then sort of the regular wall. I tried to keep it with a lot of the colors and the basing, so like I painted a lot of the dirt red because a lot of my basing is like red rocks, which got kind of interesting on some of these because I didn't do that until the end, and I probably should have done it sooner because I was trying to not ruin the rest of the paint job, trying to get my rocks the right color. And then like the shields are red because the shields on all my other guys are red, so that was something I felt was a nice touch. And there's
I gotta say, I really like this one. I'm looking at another picture you sent me of him. I really like this one, the big one with the cloak, like the cloaked hood and the shield on his chest. Yeah,
this guy.
I'm really a fan of that. That looks good, man. This is some nice terrain. I don't know how incredibly functional it is, but it's gonna it looks nice.
I wouldn't think it was functional, and the cool part is the back. Where it's they're still hewing it, like it's not finished. That's what I thought was like a neat detail on it. But yeah, for me, this is stuff that I would use if I had a display board. I'd just like pop it on, and be like, here you go. Here's some stuff to make it look cool, so it looks like I actually tried more than just painting my army. I did little extra things, or put it in a display case at my house so that they have sort of this ruined Caliban to fight over. Which is why a lot of the statue stuff's green. I just felt, it's a relic of old Caliban, because Caliban has green rock.
Sounds good.
Because why not? So I went with that. And they have lots of other stuff, too. So, Vince, I'd check it out, see if they have some cool sister stuff or something you could get away with being sisters, because they have all sorts of sort of specific stuff. Cyborg Miniatures, SCIBOR Miniatures, and it's a lot of it's in Poland, and they do a lot of sales, too. So they got some cool stuff. All right, looking next into sort of our last segment for the night, our community interaction. We have Darth Veradu from YouTube saying, thanks for the shout-out, guys. Love the podcast. So, yes, we got you another shout-out here today. And then Scott Staub, he kind of got into a big discussion with us. So we're just going to read out the first comment here. And it's nothing bad. It was all great. Because what he said was that you guys mentioned Thomas Ogden's winning Hero Hammer style Dark Angels list. I heard an interview he did with John Lynn on a different podcast. It was worth a listen. You should give it a try. I'm thinking I might try 2 Vengeances, so Land Speeder Vengeances in my next list, which is what Thomas Ogden ran in his. And if you listen to the bonus episode, he'll tell you that you should maybe be running 3. And he'd be interested in hearing others try out the list too and hear their feedback. And then the discussion went on as to him asking us, if we were going to have guests. And the answer is this month we can say yes, because not only do we have the wonderful Vince with us, but we also had Thomas himself come on. So you want to hit up both June episodes of the podcast to get what you're looking for, Scott. So thanks for the suggestion. We took it both. Well, Heath was the man on setting up stuff this month. So I will bow my head to Heath for being the man and organizing the guests, so we could give Scott what he was looking for. All right. So do you guys have anything else you want to add?
No. Unless what's the challenge for next month?
Oh, yes. We had originally scheduled this to be about community building, so maybe we should have some sort of community-built thing. So maybe not organize an event entirely. That was probably not feasible. But maybe get something written up for the Dankless Wargaming blog on our website. Because I know you've done that before, Heath, and I have too, and it's got a little dusty since we both wrote for it last. So that might be something to do to get some more community interaction. We can try and talk about likes and comments from community's Discord messages and whatnot.
Well, we actually had, I'd like to report a Learn to Play Warhammer Day here in Honolulu about 3 weeks ago. I don't know, Vince, did you hear about that, or were you often work?
Yeah, I heard about it. I didn't.
It was a great event.
Yeah.
We had, I think, 32 plus people. We had a GT level, like GT turnout event, just with people learning to play the game. Basically, the store organized, said, hey, everyone who's bought stuff during the pandemic and wants to, now that we're getting onto the safe side of things, want to learn how to actually do that. They set up in one of our conference rooms 20 tables, and everyone came out and just bring a 25 power level list. They provided food, they provided terrain, and there was,
very important.
I think, 20 people that knew how to play various stages. They just paired them up and said, here, play a mission. And then anyone that showed up that either didn't have an army or just straight up did not know what to do, we provided coaches. So myself and 4 or 5 of the other store regulars and team members sat there, and I coached 3 people through their first games of Warhammer. So I've got some video and some pictures I can put up as B-roll for this episode, if you can take a look. But it was a great event. I really enjoyed it, and we're going to look to try and do some more of that stuff in the future. And I think that this is one of the things that the Crusade rules that are built into 9th edition is really going to be excellent at doing, is helping bring new people in and build this stuff up. So yeah, I don't know how to turn that into a challenge, but...
Well, I would say just write it up and connect the videos in,
cool.
And just make an article of like, hey, this is how we do it. So that's what I think that would be it. And then I have some ideas too. I was talking about those new secondaries, about might do some tactical thing on how to use your Raven Wing bikes to get the most out of whether, running which specific bikes, running characters, running a 3-man squad, using outriders and whatnot to do the various things. Because a lot of them you have to be wholly within certain territories, so using the bigger profile models is probably a bad idea. Maybe do like a breakdown on that.
All right, sounds
So
good.
that might be what I'm going to try and do. All right, then. Well, thank you, Vince, for coming on and giving us the deep dive on
You got any
Sisters of Battle.
You got any shout-outs you want to do? Or...
No, not yet.
All right.
All right.
Well, that's it.
Well, all right. Well, thank you for listening to this month's episode of The Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Our next episode will come out in July. Please subscribe, like, and comment below if you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on your preferred podcasting service. Last but not least, we would like to thank Purple Planet for the use of their free music. Until next time, I'm Bailey from Nicholas Wargaming.
It's Heath with Tablewar Hawaii.
Stay loyal, Angels.